Chapter 2 of The Awakening of Europe. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. The Awakening of Europe by M.B. SYNGE. Chapter 2. Brave Little Holland. Brave men are brave from the very first. Corneille. It will be interesting to trace the history of these resolute people, who reclaimed their land from the angry North Sea and built busy cities which should play a large part in the history of the world. The earliest chapter in the history of the Netherlands was written by their conqueror, Julius Caesar. Why he cast covetous eyes toward these swampy lowlands is hard to see, but he must needs conquer them, and he thought he should have an easy task. At least one tribe wrung from him admiration by its rare courage. When others were begging for mercy, these people swore to die rather than to surrender. At the head of 10 Roman legions, Caesar advanced to the banks of one of the many rivers of this low country. But hardly had the Roman horsemen crossed the stream, when down rushed a party of Netherlanders from the summit of a wooded hill and overthrew horses and riders in the stream. For a moment it seemed as if this wild lowland tribe was going to conquer the disciplined forces of Rome. Snatching a shield, the world's conqueror plunged into the hottest of the fight and soon turned the tide. The battle was lost, but true to their vow, the wild Netherlanders refused to surrender. They fought on till the ground was heaped with their dead, fought till they had perished almost to a man. Caesar could respect such courage, and when he left the country to be governed by Romans, he took back his soldiers from the Netherlanders to form his imperial guard in Rome. When in the 5th century the Romans sailed away from the shores of Britain to defend their own land, they turned their backs on the Netherlands. Then came the wandering of the nations, when barbarians from the north and west tramped over the country. This was followed by the Dark Ages, when the Netherlands with the rest of Europe was plunged in sleep. Charlemagne next arose and added the Netherlands to his great kingdom of the Franks. Carroll de Groote, as he was called, was very fond of this new part of his great possessions. He built himself a beautiful palace at Nijmwegen, high up on a tableland raised above the surrounding country. For beauty of scenery he could hardly have chosen a more lovely spot. Below lay some of the many rivers, making their way slowly through the low country to the sea, while the rich meadows and fields beyond were the scenes of legend and poetry of a later age. At Nijmwegen to-day the curfew rings at 8:30 every evening. It is often called Keizer Karel's clock. In the city museum the dead world seems to live again in the relics of the past. With the death of Carroll de Groote came the Norsemen. Up the many creeks and into the rivers of the Netherlands these fierce Vikings pushed their single-masted galleys. For 3 centuries they were a terror to every sea-coast country. "From the fury of the Northmen, good Lord, deliver us," sobbed the men of the Netherlands with the rest of Europe. For further protection the Netherlands were divided up into provinces, each put under a count or lord. Among others was one Count Dirk, who was set over the little province of Holland. It was a small piece of country along the sea-coast, but it was destined to be the cradle of an empire. And this is the first mention of Holland in history. The lowland, the hollow land as it was called. The Count of Holland lived at Haarlem till he built himself a castle to the south, standing some 3 miles from the sea. To make it safe, it was surrounded by a hedge, known as the Count's Hedge, Schravenhage, now The Hague, the capital of the Netherlands. Then the Counts of Holland also built the new town of Dordrecht. "Every ship that comes up the river shall pay a toll for the new town," said Dirk. But this made the men of other provinces very angry, and the men of Friesland fought over it. But a time was at hand when they should find something better to fight over than the toll of Dordrecht. The new teaching under the name of Christianity was making its way to the Netherlands, and the Counts of Holland were not slow to join the rest of Europe in their rush to the Holy Land, to free the Holy Sepulchre from the hands of the Mohammedans. One day the men from Holland sailed down the river Maas in 12 ships, gay with banners and streamers, and out into the North Sea, on their way to the Holy Land. They would have to sail down the English Channel, between the coast of England and France, through the Bay of Biscay and the Straits of Gibraltar, to the eastern ports of the blue Mediterranean, before ever they could reach their destination. But it is probable that the Crusades did more for Holland than Holland did for the Crusades, for by her contact with the East she learnt that of which she had not even dreamt before. Chapter 3